This is what is missing
Uh,
in our schools now. This is what's missing, everywhere else as well. And then I introduced him to swinging, the meals and the clubbers and all. And 2 months down the road, he comes completely pain free, and he's like, "Man, I keep going around saying dumbbells are haram." If anybody asks me what my job is, I would say I'm a psychologist now. Say, because
uh-huh.
having dealt with so many issues with so many people, eventually it all boils down to psychology.
Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome back to another episode of the NSJD show, Pakistan's first fitness and self-improvement podcast. आज के जो हमारे guest हैं, he has a very interesting training background starting with Western methodologies of training जो कि हम सबको ज़्यादातर पता है and transitioning into Eastern training methodologies जिसका हमें इतना नहीं पता, मुझे भी इतना नहीं पता है. I'm really excited to talk about all of those things जिसमें हमारे आती है pehlwani, kushti and all of these ancient subcontinent ways of training your body and making it more functional. He is also the owner of Omniferous Gym. And also, he is part of a band called Parvaz and plays percussions and some other instruments. And his name is Moez Ali. Moez, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So, Moez, just diving right into what I want to know. So can you talk a bit about, and we were just discussing this offline, कि आपकी जो training journey है, start हुई थी with boxing, swimming, and then you got into weight training. So from that to what you're training right now, what was this journey like? और आजकल आप क्या कर रहे हैं?
So I must say it's not been an easy one, because instead of going with the masses and going with what is popular, I had to actually always look for something that actually works. And since I've been in it for a long time, if you train somebody for a month or 2 months, you can pretty much get away with anything. But if you're training somebody for 12 years, if your system, basically is not working, you have to clean up your mess yourself. You can't get away with the limitations. So you have to really perfect it and also look at the human being as a whole system rather than just this anatomy. See, so it really initially, again, like everybody else, it was a very dry kind of. Initially, what was really coming and getting popular was this CrossFit and functional training, but we really didn't know, what functional really means. Is it just these fancy, cool moves that you do, or and then we have to see that doing a lot of functional stuff is not half the population there. After going to the college, they never move the finger. They can't go straight away into functional. Like somebody can't do a proper bodyweight squat without compensating here and there. You can't make them do functional training. So we went with a lot of ambitions into it, but then the kind of population that I was dealing with, they were not really athletic people or with any athletic background. So went on and simplified the training, and then and we found that bodybuilding is pretty you can decently implement it without really working too much, maybe, because to teach a very difficult move to somebody who doesn't is not very physically educated is not easy. But to do a dumbbell curl or bench press, you can pretty much get it going in a couple of sessions. But over the years, it had a side effect. People stiffening up, pains creeping up, mentally not really being where you should be, not being able to enjoy life, and basically becoming more and more dysfunctional. So again, had to slowly like keep revisiting. And so since I've been there for so many years now, I slowly, people who had certain issues, they would refer each other. Okay, now you can't go to any other gym. You can go to Moez. You'll be sure that you won't be injured, or you'll take care of this specific injury that you have. I get people with hip replacement, knee replacement, frozen shoulder. People post back surgery, all sorts of physiotherapy cases. And so I had to, step up the game and move a little bit more towards uh, the fitness physio based type of system that caters to all these broken people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been so I had to keep. And what happened is, after a while of practicing this, I was going crazy. I'm like, oh, so many clients and so many different issues. How am I going to put it back together? How can one person basically, because when you give the isolated, divided things to fix issues, you can't put it back together. I was looking for a system that addresses all of these things very
Mm-hmm.
simply in one specific template, basically. And so it went on and went on, frustrations left and right, and eventually what happened is the things that I was coming up with, again, they were so scattered around, really didn't know how to put it back together. Like, I was literally losing it, how to actually put this all together. And then I came across this ancient system of Zoorkhaneh, which is actually 4,000 years old.
4,000.
4,000 years
Acha,
old,
acha.
and is registered by UNESCO.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is
I
registered by
saw that,
UNESCO
yeah.
as the most ancient
Mm-hmm.
physical training system of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So from the Zoorkhaneh, it's 7 arts, which 6 of them are physical arts, and the last one is non-physical. It's more, you might say, spiritual.
And what's the meaning of Zoorkhaneh?
Zor
Uh,
is power,
ठीक है.
right? As in, like, the Chinese would call it chi,
Uh-huh.
right? And khana means house. So house of strength, you might say, or a place where you actually can generate power. I have clients who, after practicing it for some time, they're like, we wake up in the morning, we're like, like, what has happened?
Right.
Like, it opens this energy from within you that
Mm-hmm.
really brings it on. It connects you back to the center of your nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Zoorkhaneh means, and it has 7 arts. The first art is called Sang, which is playing around with 2 big shields, wooden shields. Normally, some of them weigh 50, 60 kilos each. And the second art is called Shena. Shena. It's a board that, instead of like bench pressing with a barbell, you have your body onto a board where you make different flows, right? You do push up this way, you do cobra push up, you do diver push up, and all sorts of flows that actually not only articulate your entire joints, but also um, um, not only articulate the entire joint, but really wake up the core. Like, if you bench pressing, your chest is working. That's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
But with this one, none of your muscles, all these fibers all around your core, everything has to work to basically accommodate different flows on that. So from this art came yoga.
Right.
Yoga comes from the second art of Zoorkhaneh.
Acha,
Yes.
interesting. Okay.
The third art is the meal, where these club bells, that you different movements with the club bells. Again, just does amazing functional training. Like, in Western training, you do rotation here, then you do like crunches here, and all and so on. For instance, like the primary function of your abdominals is not crunching; it's
Yeah.
actually anti-extension. Like, if I push you,
Mm-hmm.
resist that force coming, right? That's anti-extension. Like, that's what we do planks. So when you do the meals, for instance, when it goes back, it's pulling you back, and that's where you actually work really your core.
Yeah.
And it works through all planes of motion, not just a crunch or this or that. But when the weights are moving around, is really activating your core from all directions. So from this art also came this samurai stuff.
Okay.
All this samurai. So in fact, I was studying, and there was some evidence that some of the samurai names that they use is still ancient Persian terms. They still have those names going in their system. So that came from Zoorkhaneh. That's a third art.
Okay.
The fourth art is footwork. Is a lot of footwork. I think I should, and then I'll recap and sum it up and say. The footwork, there's a lot of footwork, if you know, like the Turkish dance, the Kurdish dance, a lot of, different movements with the feet, basically, that actually trains you for agility. And one thing in the footwork is also spinning in place, like the dervishes. So the dervishes picked up this from the spinning in place. So you either spin in place or you spin in a circle. Like you're spinning in a circle,
Okay,
right?
you're spinning on your own axis and then going in a
another
circle.
axis, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And it's really fast spinning.
Right.
So there's a couple of things that this specific exercise, for instance, one is, as we age, we really lose balance and so on. A lot of people have vertigo, so like this treats vertigo. And but initially, this was used to actually spin out of their bodies.
In what sense?
Like if they were caught in war,
Oh, okay.
like they would spin until they leave the body.
Okay.
But what the dervishes do, they stay floating between both worlds. They're neither here nor there, right? These guys would spin so fast they would drop dead. Yeah, it is very, very, yes.
Yeah.
This is how the gladiators were actually prepared.
Acha, acha.
Yeah, so this was like a self-terminating practice, that they would do.
Right.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's tremendous cardio. Tremendous cardio if you spin too fast. The other thing is it also induces altered states of consciousness. Like for instance, I've put people into this practice. After a while of spinning, if I'm looking here, my vision is here. But if I'm here, my vision is here, and if I look back, but when I'm turning at a specific speed, like you've seen, like if you are filming a helicopter at a certain speed, because the shutter of the camera and the wings of the helicopter match, it's still
kind of still or very slow.
Yeah, it's still, but it's moving actually.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. You're spinning, but the entire room is still all in your head.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But even if you actually practice even further, so now you're in the room, but with a little practice, the room is inside you.
How?
That's the thing. So it's altered states of consciousness. The entire version of reality, like, completely goes upside down. So this not only a physical training system, it actually like is so deep. It's so deep. I'm pretty sure it's the brainchild of not only one generation of really masters of physical development, but many generations of, and they've put into this compact template.
Right.
So one of them was the whirling and the footwork. Then the other one, which is the fifth one, is called Kabbade, which in Indian terms is Kabaddi, they say.
Acha.
But this Kabbade and Kabaddi are a little different.
Right.
Kabbade it's a rod on one side, and then it connects it with a chain. It's like a bow, but you hold it over the head and you have to throw it side to side. It's an entire full upper body exercise, trains bicep, tricep, stretches your teres minor, which causes a lot of shoulder issues in overhead movements. But it's more like, when you conquer a fort or you want to throw these ropes up, it trains.
Oh, it mimics that movement.
Yeah, it's that movement, because it's a very heavy chain. You have to really throw it up.
Right.
But it's also how you can transfer the force from the ground onto an object. So this is the fifth art. The sixth art is kushti. Kushti, as we know, is wrestling. So now you have to put all those things that you've learned into practice. Like these meals, for instance, like if you actually hold a meal, which is the club bells, big boys, 5-6 kilos, they can't hold it. It twists their arms around. So then when you, like if somebody has done the Zoorkhaneh practice, the moment you shake hand or if it twists your arm, you know what I'm saying? It's got so much power.
So you have to stay stable.
So much power into it, So that's when you realize, okay, this is the stuff that I need in kushti.
Right.
It's not just the curl. That does not transfer into a real life situation. And kushti comes from kushtan in Persian. Kushtan means to kill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So kushti comes from kushtan. It's like a fight where one actually,
But it's not killing though.
yeah, it's not killing.
Yeah.
It's close to killing. You know.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
in probably in war zone, that was eventually the last. You know, this is where it would end.
Yeah.
This is the sixth art, and the seventh art is actually music and poetry. So the people who master all of these, and of course, when they age and they want to prepare new practitioners, they have to learn reciting poetry from the great spiritual masters and percussions. So they sing and they play the percussion, and the entire group of practitioners gets paced by this individual who's actually doing the drum. Like if he's going fast, those guys are gonna go fast. If he's going slow, he's gonna go slow. So he's the pacemaker of the entire. He's the initial heartbeat of the entire group. Now, this also is a system where it's always practiced to the beat. To the beat, because if imagine listening to Nusrat Fateh, right? If you keep playing or chanting or singing with him in 5 minutes, your heartbeat is going to race just like him, as if you were in his state. When you accompany that rhythm, your heartbeat matches, your energy matches that person.
Yeah.
So to when you practice to the energy of the beat, like it's a whole synchronicity of all the beats, all the hearts, all the physiques, all the energy is tuned to just one. Just to say, for instance, anything that you do in group is just like you get so jazbati, and like it's just a complete something different when you do something in group. The other thing is training to the beat prepares the mind for responding to an outside stimuli rather than an internal stimuli. For instance, you put on the headphones and do whatever workouts you're doing in the gym, some other beat going on, and you're counting your reps. Is a completely disconnected from the brain. It's completely disconnected in terms of movement and your brain. They're not really both in the same place. But when it's with the beat, your brain gets trained to respond to an outside stimulus. For instance, like when we were kids doing boxing, the coach would throw a towel and you had to like throw the towel, and later on, and it was interesting, the soap in the bathroom would just like slip out of your hand, and I would catch it, but I would think after I caught it.
Right. Just it's muscle memory, or
because the reflexes were
yeah.
built as such that I didn't have to think to lift it out.
Right.
It just did it.
Right.
So when it's with the beat and outside stimuli, the whole the brain functions in a different way. It responds quickly.
Right.
Yeah. So this it's an amazing system, and again, for each of these, then I would have like I'll need hours to actually explain what is the concept from a point of view of a physical therapist or a trainer or a functional movement expert. Each of these movements, for me, it was like, I'm like, who was behind it? It was to a point where I thought the person who had come up with the human anatomy had actually made this system. It was so perfect. It was so perfect.
Right.
It was mind-boggling. And it was interesting because I was really fed up, and I wanted to find a system. And I would sometimes even tell my clients, I'm like, there's not a day that I go without thinking about your problem. I'm going to actually solve that issue that you have, And it was interesting. I got goosebumps when I read that from an ancient Zoorkhaneh text. It said that Zoorkhaneh, you do not go to Zoorkhaneh. Zoorkhaneh comes to you. And it's like when a man is completely exhausted his own energy, Zoorkhaneh will come to him for assistance and to give him energy and consciousness. And this consciousness factor was actually really interesting for me because it really transforms the consciousness as well. It's not just the physical training. It really transforms the consciousness. Again, once you practice it, then you understand. Like anybody who has practiced it, some of these people are like, we're high for 3 days. Like this. What is in this?
I have this. I was going to ask this, that you were talking about the spinning. What was that called?
The spinning in place. The footwork section.
Yeah. So the spinning in place. So it gives you when you were saying that,
The
it
head
feels
rush.
like
Yeah, they're also,
the room is still.
Yeah,
But that's kind of like a high.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
look, it's such a, when you do a session from beginning to end, not in bits and pieces, but from beginning to end as a whole session, like going on the floor or on the shield move. Let me also go back again and say, so this shield move is like a baby that's born. All it can do is just lie down on its back and kick arms and do this, and that's the first move of the Zoorkhaneh. And that's to really start to wake up the body and the core. So they have the shield, and you do a lot of leg raises to the sides and so on. This is the first move, is the small little baby who just can lie down. The second move, which is Shena, is on the board, on the floor, and that's where the baby is on all four.
Yeah.
And the third move is the one with the club pills, and that's when the baby is now able to stand, and they move. And so the footwork, now it can run around, what I'm saying, and so on. So it also it follows a whole progression of human physical, growth. It's just a mind-boggling, complete system. And again, when you practice it from beginning to end, it just produces this other state of mind. It's very difficult to put it. You don't, like in Western training, you do your strength training separately, then you do your cardio separately, then you do your stretching separately, everything separately. This thing, everything is done together. Like these moves are designed as such that while you're doing those, you're already getting your cardio, you're already getting your stretching, everything is being done all together simultaneously. A very compact system, but again, it's just something that you have to experience. It's viral. It really gets to you.
So was this design, you explained it mimics the kind of like the circle of life when you're a baby and then till adulthood.
Yes.
And when you get wise, so then the last step is more poetry and music.
It's just like that. It follows transformation of a human consciousness.
Yeah. So was this designed to make everyone a pehlwan or a fighter, or
so initially this would be how the warriors would be trained, but for certain but it went on as a tradition, but at one point where it wasn't really much needed, it was used as a form of practice, like you have tai chi going on, and because for everybody who is beyond 40, they would know that you need some sort of physical activity to age gracefully. So it was picked up, and at some point this was actually banned also. And these people would train in hidden places, but they would keep the tradition alive.
why was it banned?
These certain, I don't know actually why it was banned. Certain dynasties just didn't allow it.
Okay.
And it also went through a lot of changes, in the sense, like pre-Islam, when there was no Islam, this was like done differently. Now after Islam, the poetries that they recite is all from great Islamic spiritual saints and so on. With every century, it has gone through a little subtle change in terms of the outer practice.
Right.
But the physical movements are all as ancient as they were before.
Okay.
Yeah. Why was it banned? I'm pretty sure some dynasties probably didn't like it, or these people had maybe certain political affiliations with some other people. It wasn't publicly practiced. And now, after the bodybuilding and all this craze that's come in the last 50, 60 years, a lot of young people have actually forgotten it. But people who are ahead of the curve in terms of training, they are now beginning to understand the benefits of the joint functions and joint function centered training system. Like the Western training system is based on muscle function. You see, okay, I want to train my bicep. Okay, so my biceps primary function is to curl and flex the arm, so I do bicep curls. But this system is based on joint function. So you may curl like that, but you may also curl like that. You could twist and curl up. It could follow any direction. So when you so again, West in science, in everything, it dissects things, make it, it has this approach where it isolates things and studies it. But like if you take Western psychology, for instance, they keep coming up with this term and that term, all that stuff, and then they don't know how to put it back, how to actually fix the individual, how to put it back together. So same is with the Western training system. They do their weight training, you stiffen up. Now what to do? Okay, I'm going to do stretches, and then you do weight training, you get sluggish with cardio. Now what are you going to do now? So they just don't know how to put it back together.
Mm-hmm.
This trains all of it at once. The movements that are designed, for instance, you do a flat bench press, fine. Then you do incline bench press, you do all these things. How about if you were to perform a movement that has all of this in one go? For instance, the joint has not been ready for that movement. It's not called a joint articulation. The joint articulation and joint-centered joint function training that this is tremendous. Like when you actually practice for 2-3 months, you feel like you have your joints have gotten younger, like when you were 12. Like how a baby can roll around, fall, like twist him, whatever you do, it's okay. Just got a client. She told me her son was just, like with friends, they were, doing arm wrestling, and his humerus, the arm bone just completely breaks into half.
Oh.
Just doing an arm wrestling.
Yeah.
Why is that? Okay, you've done a lot of bicep curls, you've done tricep extension and so on, but there was never any readiness.
There's no training in this.
It's just completely. And so the Western training does not really make you ready for real life. For instance, you get big boys, doing a lot, 20-30 kilo curls, but you tell them to hold a shopping bag for 5-10 minutes, like that. My arm is getting away. With these knees, you hold these knees like in this state for 15 minutes. It's really isometric and you're holding it, but then there's movement going on as well. So it really transfers to real life. Your arm gets twisted, okay, it gets more twisted, nothing happens. See? You want to put the body down on the floor, you're afraid and think 3 times, what's going to happen to my back? How should I do this? This system makes you ready for it. You have no second thought in terms of, moving around. It's really, really functional.
Yeah. So everyone is training for aesthetics, right? They want the perfect body, but they don't think about कि हमने अपनी body को use कैसे करना है.
Exactly.
How to make it functional, ready for practical life.
Yes.
Like you mentioned that, the Western system, they isolate things. They also isolate the body, right? कि preacher curl है तो सिर्फ bicep काम करेगा.
Exactly.
तो बहुत खूबसूरत बन जाएगा. बन भी जाता है.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned कि कोई हम कोई odd काम दे दें. Like people can lift hundreds of pounds in a deadlift.
Yeah.
But if you say कि यार ये एक पत्थर है इसको उठाना है, they'll be like कहाँ से पकड़े?
Exactly.
What do we do?
Exactly.
It's so disbalancing.
Yeah, the grip strength and so on. It's the other thing is aesthetic. Okay, so if you look at some of these videos of Zoorkhaneh practitioners, body composition. Anybody who knows a little bit about physique development, it boils down to nutrition. You can so I give this analogy of if Bruce Lee ate like Arnold but did Bruce Lee training, what would he look like?
Good question.
Or if Arnold ate like Bruce Lee but he did Arnold's training, what would he look like? He definitely not look like Arnold. So it boils down to nutrition. Size depends on nutrition. You eat big, you get big. You eat little, you get little. In terms of composition, again, we've got different genetics. Some people just lean to begin with. Some people are have to diet to lean out. It's completely different. So you can actually do Zoorkhaneh if your nutrition is like proper, like nice macros that fit your goal. You can do that, and you can actually build a very nice aesthetic physique with even Zoorkhaneh. Of course, if you do the best training, I get people who ask me, they have this misconception that training will make me have abs. We don't know. It depends, what kind of how far you're from your base calories that you need and so on. So if you can, if your nutrition numbers are on point, you can do swimming and still have six pack. You can do yoga, you can have your six pack. You can do Zoorkhaneh, you can have your six pack.
Yeah.
So it even aesthetically speaking, you can practice these hardcore like this. We'll look at the subcontinent and the pehlwani system and all, and you see these guys pretty. You can tell you can't mess with this guy. Like he's functional. He can put you on the ground. Very powerful. But they're not six pack. But because they eat desi food, they know nothing about macros and calories and so on. Like they just go and do really hard workouts. And some people who are a little maybe genetically more gifted, they might lean out, but some of them who are more mesomorphs or endomorphs might be powerful, but they will never get lean with those diets. But if they have the nutrition on point, you can even lean out and aesthetically, not only aesthetically be fit, but also be functional, and fit. So it boils down, composition eventually boils down to nutrition anyway.
Yeah. That's a good point. You know what? Actually, my mom's Mamu, so like my Nano's brothers, they were Pehlwans.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So my mom used to tell me that no, wo mere mamu is तरह training karte the, and he had like a bar जिसमें वो kind of like gymnastic type training भी करते थे. And I used to think कि pehlwani तो और होता है यार, वो तो like it's just like you think weights, right? But it's more functional, like you mentioned. And with regards to that, there's something that I read a few years ago of a very famous pehlwan, you would know, the Great Gama.
Okay.
And I read like something just passed by me and I was like, ye kya hai? And I read all about this pehlwan. It was so intriguing. The things that I read, I actually want to ask you, my question after telling the viewers what exactly I read is all of that true? Because, when I read it, I was like, kya ye ho sakti hai cheezein? So to give all of you guys what exactly I'm talking about, a brief overview of what the Great Gama was. So he was, they call him the subcontinent's most, one of the best wrestlers of all time, best pehlwans of all time. And uski training jo internet pe hame milti hai na, wo usme likha hua hai ki he used to do every day 5,000 baithaks, 5,000 bodyweight squats, 3,000 push-ups, not the push-ups that we do, wo jo pehlwani wale push-ups, done. And then 40 logon se wo wrestling karta tha roz. Khane mein he used to eat I've written it down, so let me tell you. 2 desi mutton, 6 desi chicken, 10 liters milk, 1.5 pounds crushed almond paste, आधा liter ghee, 6 pound makhan, and 3 buckets of seasonal fruits and juices. So when I read this now, I was like, what is this for real? So I wanted to get your perspective.
So I'm also background is functional movement specialist. Then after 5 years of actually getting into this practice, I realized, dude, you can't get ahead with knowing about nutrition. So, I studied nutrition. And so I was very intrigued to find out what is the philosophy of Zoorkhaneh on nutrition. And their philosophy is you have to build your metabolism to a point where you can eat pretty much anything you want and still be okay. So you see kids, they can eat whatever they want, whenever they want, and nothing happens. You know what I'm saying? It's because the metabolic rate, the base metabolic rate is impacted.
So it's training the metabolism.
It's training, bringing, instead of, so I get people who are like at 600 calories, 800 calories, they come still flabby and, very weak. And I get, it's unfortunate actually. I get people who come to me and then when I see them, like they're running at 600-700 calories, इनके carbs बंद कर देते हैं. My diets are 60-70% carbohydrate based. So इनके carbs, and then all of that aside, they start getting panic attacks, and so on. Of course, if you starve yourself and you can't sleep well and so on. So I say, instead of always tracking and keeping your calories, taking your calories down, why don't you build your metabolism back up? A caloric deficit is a caloric deficit. You see? So instead of constantly bringing your nutrition numbers down to go into a caloric deficit, you can take your metabolism up, And I'm pretty sure, even if with the numbers that you said about this guy, even if it's half true, that's still a lot.
Yeah. And one more thing that I just learned this yesterday, that the Great Gama is actually Kulsum Nawaz's Nana.
Achha.
Yeah, so she's from that family.
I see.
So, but yeah, exactly, I agree with you.
These gladiators, they would they would need 6 chickens a day. Like, you can build your metabolism. And the thing is, these moves, some of these moves, you see it on the video, like, oh, ye to main bhi kar sakta hu. It's so simple. It seems simple, but swing a gada behind you, like, I have people who teach them with the simple rod, no weights on. Okay, fine. Yeah, but this is it only. You put 1 kilo on it. So this is like 1.5 meter of a rod, but the weight is not here where the dumbbell is. Half the weight is on this side of the dumbbell, the other half is on this side of the dumbbell. Here you have the grip here, and then you have the weight 1.5 meter up there. Yeah. So when it's falling down, 1 kilo is not falling down. It really pulls around your body from all planes of motion. So when you when you have big boys you train for, when you read these guys, some of these guys would do 80 kilos or 40 kilos of a swing on the gada swing, behind the head one.
Right.
You have to try 2 kilos, and then we can have a go. It's like saying somebody has somebody has clean and jerked 400 kilos. It's just out of proportion to even imagine somebody being able to do swing those kinds of weights on these instruments. They look simple. They really challenge every aspect of you. Like, you can tell from when you put your feet on the ground and you've got 20 kilos swinging behind, you can tell the force like on your feet, even like trying to just stay stable on the floor. So the thing is, because if you overdo Western methodology, it really gets stiff. In fact, there's some I know many people who've actually stopped lifting. They have literally the other day I had a client who suffered really bad neck, shoulder blade pain and shoulder pain, and he completely stopped lifting altogether. And then I introduced him to swinging the meals and the clubbers and all. And 2 months down the road, he comes completely pain-free, and he's like, man, I keep going around saying dumbbells are haram. You shouldn't even touch the dumbbells, So because they're so joint-friendly, because, like, for instance, if you do this, the meal swing, this is an upward rotation of the shoulder blade. And if you get the shoulder blade moving with your shoulder, there is... when you use a joint or an instrument perfectly as it was designed to do, no matter how much you use it, it's not going to fall apart. It only falls apart when you use it the way it was not intended to be used. See, for instance, if you have a shoulder press done, you get your medial deltoid functioning, and over time, these big muscles, big medial deltoids there, rotator cuffs are completely on chutti, and you don't have the stabilizers going. The low trap is not going to be activated. When you hold the meals, it's like a crane. You see? The force is pressing from here, and it turns on the base of the shoulder blade, the muscles that pull the shoulder blade down into its own place. So you can do that for years and years and years, and that is how it was intended to function. You know what I'm saying? And the meal also represents the shield and the sword.
Oh, okay. Acha.
So, point being, I wanted to come to is when you use a joint as it was intended to, you can do it subah se sham tak. You can do it as much as this guy was doing, and you're perfectly sure that the system is not going to fall apart, because this is how it was designed to be used. Which brings me to the next point, that if you actually follow a system that goes well with your function of your anatomy of the different joints, you can drive it miles and miles and hours every day. It's not going to fall apart. And so you can, like, for instance, if you do too many crunches, you're going to hurt your back. You're going to get, your posture is going to get, like, you're going to...
Yeah. I know of like way too many kids who've pulled they have a slip disc because they used to do 1,000 crunches a day.
Exactly.
Kya fayda?
But for instance, if you swing these, when these knees pull back, the anti-extension is being done, and your joint, your shoulder joint and everything else is following exactly what it should be doing. You can do thousands and thousands and whatever, hours of training you want to do, and still be sure that, you're not going to really overwork the system. So you can you cannot really overtrain in that sense. You know what I'm saying? With this Western system, I mean, I've done it for 15 years, more than that. I've made people do it. Followed German volume training, followed high intensity training, high intensity interval training, all of that stuff. But again, it just look, the bodybuilding is for a very specific fraction, like out of 1,000 for one person who's going to compete and build up a body at one stage, and it does not suit the rest of us, And you see big boys like Branchwater, and they really train with shit form. Everything is okay, They really, some anatomies just can take a lot of beating. Nothing happens. Majority of us need something that restores function. We sit at the desk the whole day, and some of these guys who made a name, they're genetic freaks to begin with. If you ask any, if you ask any pro, if I don't have the genetics, can I get there? You can't get there.
Yeah.
So it's very important that you follow a training system that is in harmony with your with your body's function. You can swing these meals. I mean, of course, you have to know the technique, master the technique, properly do it. Don't overdo the weight. You can do it. So you can start it from morning and keep swinging till evening. Nothing is gonna go wrong. Nothing is gonna go wrong. If you do that with bodybuilding in less than a couple of months, everything is gonna hurt. All your joints are gonna stiffen up. You really. We get a lot of people, they do it for 1 year, 2 years. If you look at some of the Zoorkhaneh videos, there's uncles, 90-year-old uncles, that he's still doing it. Because the joint is being used exactly it was intended to be used.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's a very well thought. It's for me as a functional movement expert. When I came across it, I'm like, who came up with this? For instance, I had a shoulder issue when I was a little kid, even swimming. I'm like, this is making so much sound, Chal hi nahi raha hai na? What's going on? And then again, when went into weight training, I had issues with the function of this shoulder for years and years. And so I came to a point, and of course I had a lot of clients to deal with. Okay, the serratus anterior is getting weak, your shoulder blade is winging, and those muscles getting into it. And then I came to a point where I'm like, okay, I have to retract the shoulder blade, get it there, do an upward rotation to actually put it in place and rotate it, and then you get the meal move, which is exactly the same. Or for instance, you have to put your hand on the floor from here and then push it this way, let the shoulder blade dip down, because this may not just, this serratus press that we call it, this may not do the job. You might need to push the serratus at different angles to activate a certain part of the shoulder blade that is not active. And then when you go on the Shana board, which is on the floor, it's crazy push-ups from different angles.
Same movement.
It's already there. It is already mind-boggling. So we think these are some cool moves these guys are doing. It's like some experts came up and said, you know what, do these couple of things as it is, and you'll be okay.
Right. Yeah.
He made it. It is the simplicity of it that completely makes people, they say, great minds make simple.
Yeah.
This actually has been simplified and you're sure you can practice this for the rest of your life. And yeah, it is crazy. In the next decade, I'm pretty sure, just like the nutrition is going back to the holistic, and quantum physics brought science and spirituality together. Science was saying, like it was acting too big until they hit quantum physics. Now, quantum physics and electron can be in 3 different places at the same time without being there at all.
Yeah.
How do you explain that? So, it brought science and spirituality a little too close. So just like with everything, we're reverting back to the ancient traditions. This is the same thing is going to happen with training now.
Like our diet, everyone is focused on nutrient-dense foods,
food,
staying away from artificial
organic
foods,
stuff, and holistic diets and non-processed stuff.
Yeah.
So the same thing is going to happen with training sooner or later. It's just that in terms of the masses practicing, lifting is just being hardly 50 years. And I would say not even 50 years. I mean, how the masses are just getting into this gym craze and all. So it's just experience that will bring them, it's relatively very recent in terms of training for masses. It's a recent phenomenon. So I'm pretty sure another 2-3 decades and they're like, man, this is not working for too long,
Yeah.
So you need to.
So the thing is that like everyone is like they have an umbrella of bodybuilding. They think everything comes under that.
Yes.
But that's actually part of the whole puzzle, right?
Yes.
So like for example, coaches here, unfortunately, like if I'm a football player and I say, I want to get better at football, they'll be like, okay, ये bodybuilding की चीजें आप करो. Someone comes with something else, they'll be like, okay,
that's
ये
very
bodybuilding
interesting.
की
You
चीजें
brought
हैं.
this thing up. So I have this group of friends who, started. They decided to do basketball, and then they're like, "Aap bhi aa jao." I'm like, dude, watching you guys just run is like looking at these broken cars racing. Like literally, as a person who from morning to evening just studies movements, when I look, I'm like, oh God, like, I know something's gonna happen. If not now, then tomorrow. Less than 2-3 months, all sitting at home, everybody had gotten injured. So, which brings me to the point that Zoorkhaneh's practice will set you in a position where you can practice any sport. If you want to do wrestling, you can be a perfect wrestler from there. The name means Zoorkhaneh. Zor means power, Khana is house. It really generates energy and it really prepares the ground for whatever else you want to do. For instance, all that footwork that you do, what is spinning in place is a change in direction. What you do in football is a lot of change in direction, So it prepares you for any sport that you want to do. Builds flexibility, builds a stamina. I can't think of any single sport where Zoorkhaneh would actually slow you down there. It will not. It really will not. If it's any overhead movement, you swing these knees for hours. This upward rotation of your shoulder blade is so smooth. The thing is, my own body has gone through so many systems of training. Like, I followed even into bodybuilding. I went and I don't know if you have heard about DC training. It's a very high intensity. DC.
What's
It was
that
actually by this guy, Dante Trudel. He came up with this. His nickname on a website was Dog Crap.
Okay.
Just some random name.
Achha.
And so he put this exercise template where you build up to a weight that is pretty decent, and you take that weight 3 times to failure with 20-second pauses. So it's basically one giant set broken into like forced sets to get.
Yeah. So what they call like rest pause kind of.
It's basically
like
rest pause, 20-second rest pause. Physiologically speaking, if you really push to failure, your coming set is normally half plus 2-3 more of the previous. So my body has gone through, I've done that for 2 years, really hardcore, like in terms of the night before you can't sleep because you remember your last week's number and you almost met death in person, with the previous numbers, and this week you have to beat those numbers. So, I've gone through so many of these systems, and then after a while, you're so stiff. Yes, of course, you're bigger, and, your metabolism is really high, But when I practice Zoorkhaneh for like less than 2 months, I'm like, shit. It's like you're really oiled up, and it's like really your body has got its youth back.
Right.
It really prepares you for anything that you want to. But if I was doing the high intensity weightlifting type stuff, I would not dare do anything else. Even if you run for 2 minutes, you gas out. Okay,
Yeah.
This stuff is the founder. Some of the Zoorkhaneh practitioners are actually world champion wrestlers as well. World champions in terms of strength sports as well. It really prepares you for anything that you like. It's not in contradiction with any other physical activity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a great point that you raised. Like, for example, when a few years back, if I'm doing, I know I have to do a back workout in the evening.
Yeah.
And then someone says, can you help me do this? And I'm like, oh, this will involve my back. It'll ruin my workout in the evening. So
exactly.
you were saying that Zoorkhaneh is something that, it goes with all of these activities and
Yes.
complements them.
Yes. You
Yeah.
can be any whatever sport you are in, you'll be just better. Whatever sport you're in, you'll just be better.
Yeah.
It's really a work of wonder, It's like who built the pyramids of Egypt type thing, It's like who came up with this system?
And we don't know.
Yeah.
There are no names or originators.
It's not a specific person. It's
okay.
just the roots go back to ancient Persia. Just because it was I think it was which country? I think Turkmenistan. I think registered it as their tradition, but all of the names are actually Persian. Pushti is Persian.
Right.
Saying meal, all these things, Zoorkhaneh, the name Zoorkhaneh itself is a Persian word, So like if you look at the Indian subcontinent tradition, they have bits and pieces of it. Like they have the kushti and they have the meal, the swings of that, but they don't have the footwork is missing. So the complete system is actually where it all originated.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that it has actually been there for 4,000 years and still around. And again, it's like for somebody who is okay. So I was fed up, and I had come to a point where I had to do, physical therapy for some for my clients in terms of doing things in bits and pieces. Give this one external rotation, that stuff. With one movement, you completely restore the function of the joint. You know what I'm saying? It's just again, it's so simple, but it really resolves the issues. Like you have people with frozen shoulder, activate the serratus, do this to give them 1,000 physical therapy things to do, and eventually even then the movement of the joint is not really restored because you have like nutrition, you have this, take this vitamin, take that vitamin. Okay, what if this vitamin reacts with this one? What if this exercise that I'm giving for the shoulder overpowers the other one that I'm doing? It just does not address the whole system as one.
Right.
But with this one movement, and the entire thing gets, from the ground, it just goes up. It's just crazy. Like when I think about it, I just keep quiet. Literally.
It baffles you.
It baffles me as a person who has spent his entire youth, training people and trying to come up with things that actually make people more pain-free. When I look at them, like, yeah. But again, I think it's all the mistakes and the pains and the frustrations that I went through is what makes me appreciate it even more.
Right. So, on YouTube, there are like people in India that are doing like kushti, pehlwani, wrestling, and they have these channels, and they have quite a number of people following. And the reason why I do that, I follow their videos is because if someone is making a vlog, today I'm going to hit chest, I'm like, bahut dekh liya yaar.
So this is the thing. Now, if for instance, I have had people on the same macronutrient numbers, and I've had them on. Okay, the other thing is, I get big boys, they bench press 100 plus kilos. I put them on the board, 5 minutes. They can't last 5 minutes. What is that good for?
Yeah.
You get on the board and 5 minutes of doing different push-ups. That's actually strength. To be able to handle your own body weight, not for just a set of 10 or 2 sets of 10, but for 5 minutes. If you can do it more, and if you stay in that position for 10 minutes, imagine what happens to your core. It's like you're holding a plank, and if you're diving down, you're hitting shoulders and upper chest more. If you're doing it in different movement, you can open your feet, you can close your feet. It's completely different. So I don't know if I mentioned the Western training system. The center is fixed, the peripheries move. In this system, the center is loose and the peripheries are fixed. Your feet are on the ground, your hands are on the board, and you do different movements. So I have people with scoliosis, for instance. You have to think twice for giving them some stuff because the spine is not really centered. Some people, they have different. It's not really symmetrical. With this thing, okay, if the hands are not, if this is not symmetrical, the center can adjust. So instead of the center being fixed and doing working at the peripheries. Here the peripheries are fixed and the center moved around, and that is what actually frees you up from the inside out. For instance, if you have certain issues, you get massage, you do this, you do that, nothing helps. When you fix the peripheries and you just mobilize the center from where it is actually caged, completely, and that is what brings the zor.
Right.
This is what brings a chi, opens up that energy system that's blocked inside you.
Yeah.
That freeing up the center is what wakes up the beast, basically.
Yeah. And if I think about it, like these days, the activities that we have, there's nothing that's center focused, right?
No.
Just sitting, using a computer, doing something else. We bahar se movement, open chain movement.
Exactly.
Nothing that really utilizes this part. Moves it. That's interesting. And then you can tailor-made it according to the conditions that person has.
If you look, this started when we're talking about those push-ups and all that. Now you can summarize the entire chest workout, not only your chest workout, but your ab workout, your shoulder workout, your tricep workout, everything in that push-up. Because it goes from all angles that your shoulders should be, the shoulder is required, the upper chest, lower chest, everything,
Yeah.
Rather than, okay, abhi main upper chest kar raha hu,
isolation.
Isolation. What the hell? Wait, if you have 10 minutes, do this one. So if you have 10 minutes, get on the board, do 15 minutes of, some flows of different types of push-up, If your nutrition is on point, your nutrition is like some really hardcore lifters like Dorian Yates, they say all you need is one set to failure. So get on the board way. If you have Dorian's nutrition, if you have Dorian's drug protocol, you can build massive amounts of muscle as well if you wanted to. That doing 1,000 push-ups that addresses the entire chest can really do a lot. So the problem, I think one of the other issues is who's going to make the money then? If you can tell people, okay, there's a couple of exercises that you can do,
they'll just do that. Okay. They don't need you. They don't need you.
Who's going to do it?
Yeah.
And the amount of, you can summarize the entire gym into a couple of simple movements, instead of having your body fixed in a place and doing different directions of the movement, keep the equipment where it is, you flow around it. You know what I'm saying? So you're basically training your entire, all your muscles. And for beginners, they should slowly build up into it. There's always need to build up slowly. Don't just go into it straight away. But
so for someone watching this video and they're like, "Boss man, when you start karna," they go in the kitchen and wo hote nahi wo aate belne wala, they're like, "मैं ऐसे करता हूँ start." So what's your advice to them? क्या करें वो?
Yes, sure. Study, go see some videos of some good professionals who actually can swing these properly. You can make your own home devices. You can, make it from mineral water ke bottle mein koi stick laga ke put some cement in it and starting. Slow down some videos on YouTube, study the motions properly,
Right.
And let your body take its time to open up in that certain range of the upward rotation of the shoulder, as we call it, the upward rotation of the shoulder blade. Give your body time to accommodate the movement slowly. It's like, you want to make a big hole, and the object is very, if the object is too big and too solid, you can't make a big hole all at once. So what you do, you put a small drill there, then a drill of a bigger size and a bigger size, and slowly expand that circle. So slowly start it. Imagine this is a circle that needs to be opened up slowly. Do it slowly. It's not heavy weights that will do the job. You have to be able to swing it slowly. Once you build up that range of motion, okay, definitely anybody can start these, and you can take them anywhere you want. They're very easy to take around. I think everybody should. In every home, instead of a treadmill, we should see some of these equipment.
Interesting.
Yes.
And have you also dabbled with this diet that these pehlwans have? Like wo jo ek hota hai badam ragda.
Yeah.
They have like patni 100, I don't know, 200 badams ko wo juice nikalte hain, and they're like, we take this for strength. Have you tried those things?
No, the thing is, we know a lot about nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
We 100 years ago, we don't know how many calories this thing has, how many calories
Mm-hmm.
that thing has. Now we have access to these details of nutrition. If you have a specific goal of body composition, we can maybe tackle this one a little differently.
Right.
Again, if you look, the thing is, some of these Desi people, if they had access to this new knowledge, they could have taken it in terms of composition. They could have taken it to the next level. But in that sense, they need a lot of calories. You need to do a session with these things to understand how hungry you get after this eat. The metabolic demand that they produce is insane. It's crazy because, for instance, if you're doing a chest workout, okay, I'm doing incline bench press, flies, and so on, and that's all. Your chest is working. Okay, a little bit of tricep and shoulder, and small. But when you're doing these things, is the entire system working. So the metabolic demand that it produces is crazy. These people need a lot of calorie dense, heavy food.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you can't do that many numbers next day. Literally, it's impossible.
So how do you train yourself and your clients? And like you're saying that everything is involved. So Monday ko you do like a Zoorkhaneh based workout. Then Tuesday ko kya hoga fir?
Okay, no. So I have integrated. So we have a Zoorkhaneh session that is separate,
Right.
where we do A to Z of Zoorkhaneh only.
Okay.
So it's like we train. Okay, so in traditional Zoorkhaneh, they have these octagon. It's an octagon, which they call god, like god. It's a dip.
Right.
The spectators are on the outside, the ones who watch, and the ones who are the practitioners are in the good octagon training. They're very, very close.
Like akhada that they call?
Yeah, it's like it's like a wrestling ring, but it's an octagon.
ठीक है.
You don't go immediately go into the ring, For 2 years, you have to stay outside and watch, and then slowly practice these things. And then when you can actually perform all these movements, then they invite you to come in. So similarly, when clients come, we practice little bits and pieces of these things. And then in the Zoorkhaneh session, we bring it all in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we implement the entire system. Because you can't, have somebody who doesn't know how to swing this thing or how to, like, I have people who get on the board now in 2-3 minutes, the wrist hurts, the hand hurts, the elbow, everything hurts because the bone has been used to, for instance, doing that 4 sets of 10 on the bench, but it wasn't there for 4 minutes. You just can't hold it, So we train bits and pieces of it within the sessions, it's practicing an art. Right. And then when is the concert day, then we practice the concert, See? It's like you practice the nose, and then that day you have the jam going on.
Yeah.
It's more or less like.
So does this happen like you mentioned abhi ke wo board pe aaye and their wrist hurting, their elbows hurting, that someone, it just gets worse, their injury gets worse or a new injury comes up, they do something wrong with Zoorkhaneh?
No.
No.
We take it very systematically, very slowly. The other thing is that board actually, so I have a lot of like strong boys, who've been lifting for something. You put them on the board, or like straighten your hand, they can't straighten their hands. Or you tell them do a scapular push like that, they're like, they can't dissect the movement.
They can't understand what to do.
Yeah, they can't understand. They want to move that, but the elbow bends.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of time to rewire the system, and then put them and then let the joints open up them, like completely. So again, if you're a beginner, you haven't done anything before, it's not as bad as if you've been training for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Because this has actually, in a way, it's improved you stronger. Your base metabolic rate is maybe more than somebody who's never trained. But somebody who has been, I don't know if you know anything about calligraphy, you have to, shape the pen and put it in the ink according to the calligraphy type that you want to do. Like they sit down with a chisel, they have to
prepare before they do.
They have to sharpen that pen.
Exactly,
the one that for a different type of calligraphy that they want to do.
Okay.
Same is with the joints, You have sharpened the pen for bodybuilding is not going to be good for this stuff right now.
And if you haven't sharpened it at all, you can start from scratch.
You can start from scratch. It's still a little. It hasn't lost a lot of its abilities, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But these people who have just been doing unidirectional movements, they have lost like half of, like, if I put them on, you know, like a nice flow on the board like this, like, shit, why is my shoulder making so much noise? Because you train this separately, then you incline separately, then you train this separately, but you never train that. So the joint is not ready yet. So we have to take time, slowly building that up. Once it gets going, then it gets going.
Interesting. Yeah. So what is your definition of a complete athlete? What are the attributes that should be in that person?
The thing is, the world has gotten so specialized, that so competitive. You know, you can't really be good at everything now. Like, you know, Armstrong, the cycling champion, he also ran some marathon, not the cycling, but running.
Oh, okay.
I think his number was like 700 something. Although he was like 7-time world champion.
But specialized.
But he in running, he failed. Simply because he hadn't prepared for it. So I think a complete athlete would be somebody who would not be afraid to go into a jiu-jitsu gym, or to go into the boxing, to get a boxing session, or to go play volleyball, or this or that. You know, somebody who can pretty much, to be honest, this is the original CrossFit. The original CrossFit. It prepares you for pretty much anything that you want. Even the CrossFitters, in terms of mobility and function, would not be close to Zoorkhaneh practitioners. Maybe we can run some videos, you know, to show the audience, you know, what kind of capabilities that they can develop. I think an all-rounder is somebody who has at least, okay, so if you're into any competitive sport, we're talking about different. You have to be psychotic about your food, you have to be psychotic about your training, you have to train a certain methodology to, you know, get to the top. You can't.
Yeah.
But as an average all-rounder, good athlete who is functional, somebody who has a certain decent level of, you know, cardio, decent level of endurance, decent level of mobility, decent level of strength, and so on. You know, like all of this as one package, I think will be good. Like in terms of bodybuilding, you're, you know, really muscly and all that, but you go 2-3 flight of the stairs and you're out of breath. You're like, I can't do it. You know, say, or your meal gets late. One of your meals you skip, you have a headache, you have a migraine for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a separate conversation.
Yeah, it's a separate conversation. So I think the thing is, as people age, and depending on how old whoever is watching this video is, they're coming with their own phase into it, you know. Somebody who is in the 40s, maybe late 40s or 50s, is probably going to understand and disconnect a lot more with, this is what I needed, you know. But somebody who's like 14 years old, all he wants right now is his big arms. He doesn't care about function. He doesn't even know what pain means, you know.
Yeah.
But somebody who has suffered back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, or some pain, they're like, man, I really want to train, but every time I step into the gym, something goes wrong again and again. So complete athlete, I think it's very difficult to. I have to say, if there wasn't a complete athlete, there would be a Zoorkhaneh practitioner.
Okay,
you know.
So you would say they are complete athletes.
Yeah, because he can. It's very hard for me to think about any sport that he cannot participate in. He could participate in anything he wanted.
Interesting.
You know, it is a base of anything else. You know, it is really. But if I think about, like, if you're a swimmer, you can't really like do boxing. It's not like, you know, it's just completely different. Or if you're a swimmer, you can't do martial arts. You know, your body does just not. Okay, this is another thing that I wanted to actually talk about. There's a lot of fascia mobility into this training system. You know fascia?
Yeah.
So the fascia is your mold. The fascia is the mold, and if you do not open up your fascia, it can really lock you up. But like a Zoorkhaneh practitioner can be as good of a dancer as he could be a weightlifter or a wrestler. There's so much fascia training into this, like your fascia really becomes, instead of a bag of glue, it becomes a bag of lubricant. It really opens up the fascia.
Right.
And the joints, like, my body has gone through so many of these things. My joints, like when I like twist my arm, you get tennis elbow, golf elbow,
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
that, people lifting, is all because it's certain direction. We miss these twistings and turnings,
Yeah.
It really, you can feel that the fascia completely opens up with this. Again, I think this system would prepare you for anything. Whereas, like you said, if you're a weightlifter, bodybuilder, you're not gonna play basketball. Uske baad. You're not gonna play. You're gonna say no to half the stuff that you used to do, unless you're very young and you haven't lifted for more than 5 years or something. But lift for 15 years, then we'll talk.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even Dorian Yates is doing yoga now. You know what I'm saying? He is not lifting anymore.
Yeah.
He can't lift anymore. But trust me, if he could do Zoorkhaneh even now, because it really, okay. So I would say this is yoga on steroids.
Yoga on steroids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zoorkhaneh is yoga on leg steroids. It's,
Right.
It's the flow, it's everything else plus added weight.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it's like, so as per you, it's like a mindset as well as physical exercise.
Actually, the other thing is, if you go to the traditional, authentic Zoorkhaneh, they make sure they make you a good human being before, like they make you an insan before they make you an athlete. You know what I'm saying? They really focus on they would believe that you do not want to make you don't want to make a bad person strong. You want to make a good person strong, just like all martial arts. Yes, it's a foundation of martial arts and that.
Very interesting.
So this is a thing. Okay, so there's, you look at this American, for instance, wrestler, and he sees the opponent's arm is broken.
Yeah.
He's gonna keep coming and attacking that arm, coming. You see is broken. But you see an Eastern one, if he sees like an opponent's arm is broken, he's gonna put that arm behind him. He's like, okay, you know what? Let's make it a fair game, and let's now fight with one arm. You know what I'm saying? This is the difference. They do not only make athletes or strong people; they also make just and sound people. This is what is missing in our schools now. This is what's missing, everywhere else as well. That humanity's side is being forgotten. You know what I'm saying? That's, I think, something that eventually, as a society, really bites you in the back later on. If that's not taking along, like if you go to a lot of musicians, they're like, before you become an artist, become an insan. What good is an artist if he doesn't know what being human is like or is to be. So that aspect of it is also taken. That's where the seventh art of Zoorkhaneh is, again, music and poetry. After training all those masculine arts, now you have to get good at the feminine, intellectual, spiritual.
Learn to control yourself. Not be an aggressive, uncontrollable person.
Exactly. Where to use your strength.
Yeah.
So where to put it to use.
Interesting.
It's a whole mindset as well.
Yeah, that's what I got at.
The whole respect element. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah, it's a different thing. Like when you see like a big guy, a big strong guy, he comes and he says salam and he does this. It's a very different impression that you get. Like, wow, like you can crush me, but you are doing this.
That's when you can. That's when you can actually say this is a human being.
Yeah.
Where you can crush, but you don't.
Exactly.
That's what makes us human.
Yeah.
And I think sports, this should be a really foundation of not only sport but pretty much anything. Look at science. We know how to do anything now, but it's being used to make warplanes and war equipment and all that stuff. Whereas if Oppenheimer, who was in charge of the atomic bomb, these guys were crying later on. Oh, they used us for this. Then they realized what they were used for. So I think morality and spirituality should go along with the rest of the human. We're not we're not only this physique, or we're not just the intellect.
We're not just a machine.
We're just not the machine, like Charlie Chaplin used to, say. We're spiritual beings in the human body. Yeah. And to be honest, for me personally, I mean, I've had all my phases, and I couldn't say anything to the younger lot now. But for me, the only reason that I would be working out at this point is to age gracefully. That's it. I see these people every day coming to me with different pains and aches and issues. And I'm like, it could have been so easily avoided. So easily avoided if they had a little simple ritualistic form of training that wasn't like really hardcore or anything, but just moving a little bit, simple movements every day. None of those issues would happen. Half the medical industry would not be needed if we literally had a little bit of physical activity in our culture. Like the Chinese, you go into the parks in the morning, they're all like doing their own thing. We don't have any of these things here. Only thing we have is walk, and that's it. So yeah, I think you have to look at the human being as one complete entity that has emotions, a spirit. Has to be the soul. You cannot be really happy in an unhealthy body, in a painful body. Life's not fun. But also, if you're completely physically fit, but you haven't gotten this sorted, that could be hell.
Yeah, like so many people today, right? Like they have a great physique and everything's good physically,
but
mentally.
But doing sleeping pills, you can't sleep. You can't sleep. They can't shut off the brain, They can't get stuff together,
Yeah.
So it really, I mean, well, for me, if anybody asks me what my job is, I would say I'm a psychologist now. Say, because having dealt with so many issues with so many people, eventually it all boils down to psychology. Their physical health depends on the psychology.
Yeah.
Psychological health also, like if you have a pain somewhere and you're immobile, you're going to be depressed for sure. And if you look all the great traditions, even the religious traditions, they all have a physical movement in it. You look at our own namaz, do that 5 times a day. You okay?
Yeah.
Hamstrings loose, everything loose. You're gonna get
that's
that baby pose.
Yeah. That's what the last person who came in, she was a physiotherapist. That's what she said.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Any spiritual. The thing is, if you look, like there's these Tibetan monks, the practitioners of Tai Chi, and all these movement meditations. They did not initially they did not incorporate movement into the meditation. They would just sit and meditate. But when you do that for some time, your body is going to rot. Your insulin sensitivity, your joints are going to start getting like a cane and chicken because you're just sitting in one place. It's going to... And then they realized, dude, you are not going to age gracefully like this. So they started incorporating movement into the meditation. And Zoorkhaneh, if you actually look at some of the authentic practitioners of it, is exactly like that. It's a movement meditation, but again on steroids, because they got weights going on as well.
Yeah, and that's basically what I'm trying to accomplish with this podcast is, so it's fitness and all aspects of fitness.
All aspects.
Not just physical fitness, right? So when the first time I had someone on, we talked about a little bit of mental fitness and psychology. There was a comment in the comment section that I came in to learn about workouts. What are you guys talking about? And I tried to say that, this is also fitness.
Yes.
It's a whole, it encapsulates it, right?
The thing is, again, one has to see the first question and the last question one has to ask themselves is, what do you really want? What do you want? Of course, this video is probably not going to be really of any value for somebody who wants to, win the local bodybuilding championships. But Dorian Yates himself, after having it done, he would love to listen to this stuff.
Yeah.
He would appreciate it. And so I look back and I always say, I'm like, what? I wish all I had done was this to begin with. Sarif just this, I would have avoided so much pain, so much useless things, so many injuries, so many things. But then I'm like, okay, if I hadn't done those mistakes, I wouldn't actually appreciate this so much.
Yeah.
But again, I've put my youth into it, and I believe I really believe that I did not go to Zoorkhaneh. Zoorkhaneh actually came to me. They're like, yeah, this is what you need.
So it's like if you were like in your teens or early 20s and someone came to you with the system, you would be like, yeah,
It has been there as
Yeah.
as I mean, it's been there for 4,000 years. I never.
But even if someone told you at that time, you'd be like, yeah, nahi, nahi, I'm not interested. After going through all of those experiences, now you truly appreciate it.
I really, if I had the youth back, I could have really done a lot more. A lot more. You want to get big? Okay, fine. Instead of swinging 5 kg meals, do 10. But the difference between 5 and 10 is not 5 kilos in Zoorkhaneh.
Yeah, I
Difference
understand.
between 5 and 10 is like 500 kilos. It's so much more because the weight.
Yeah, it's like the moment arm.
The moment
it
arm.
increases it.
Yes, the moment
weight,
arm is like a difference between the 5 and the 6. You can feel the 5 and the 6 difference, you know. You want to get big, do that. Okay, you want to build more. You know, some of these Zoorkhaneh practitioners, they do 250 push-ups just to begin with.
Just like a warm-up.
Just like a warm-up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
250
just to begin. So you could do a lot more.
So what's your like 5-year goal right now? This is where I want to be.
So personally, to be honest, I just want to age gracefully. I want to be able to walk around, still be able to do all these movements, you know, as I get older. But otherwise, for me, I want to help people avoid a lot of unnecessary pain. I have become a workshop literally for all the other gyms. Yesterday I had a guy who really in agonizing pain. Like you see him like, oh man, this boy is really suffering on a back extension, you know, with added weight. He completely broke his back.
Oh.
So I see so many cases every day. Kya hua hai, you know, fulan check up. You know, I did this shoulder nikal gaya, ye ho gaya. You know, unnecessary pains that people have to go through just because the system is not completely refined. But we know that if you, for instance, if you swing a meal that's not, you know, if you can't hold the meal here, you can't swing it. It's as simple as that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can't get injured because you can't hold it. Even if you can hold it, you won't be able to get injured.
You need to do the first step before you go to the next step.
And the other thing is, because it is 5 kg, like to produce that kind of force because it's 5 kilo, you can't get injured with these weights. Like the max weight, if you're like world champion, crazy, strongest guy in the continent, max you would be able to do is like 25 kilos of those. Your shoulder can take 25. If you're a big boy, your shoulder can take 25 kilos from any angle. But to cause that kind of movement for on a shoulder press, for instance, or a bench press, you need so much more load. And that straight away puts the big muscles there. The small muscles aren't really engaged, and injuries are just happening anytime.
Yeah.
So my goal in the next 5 or whatever many years I'm going to be staying around would be to make people know a system that actually can make them train without causing them unnecessary pain. You know, I would like them to see, you know, they're like 50, 60, 70 years old still, you know, swinging these things around. Who said to get cardio, you need to go on a treadmill and run for half an hour? You can swing meals for half an hour. It's going to make your posture upright. It's going to really, you know, like open up the chest, activate the core. You're going to get your cardio. You're going to train your core, everything. You know what I'm saying? It's such a simple thing. It's such a simple move. Yet it addresses everything else. And you can have a big meal afterwards because your metabolism has really gone up. You know, my goal in the next whatever years is to promote this thing that it took me 20 years, to be honest, to come to appreciate. It really took me a lot of pain to come to appreciate. It's just completely out of it boggles my mind how simple yet how effective a training system can be, and how an anatomy friendly, you know, a system can be. It's really a work of art. So for me, I would like to spend, and I can back it up with, you know, if we get into, you know, like really physical therapy terms,
Mhm.
I can, like come up with exactly why this is specific and has been there, put there. It's not like just a bunch of people coming with these things and doing these things just because it
There
is.
is science behind it. And
I am pretty sure the people who have come up with these things have seen, each of them have seen probably like 5,000 cadavers, and opened up, for instance, okay, this is how it works. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
not, it's way beyond just, a random gym guy or a random trainer. These people have really seen the inside of the anatomy, all functions of the.
Mhm.
It's crazy. It's mind boggling. So.
Yeah, yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually happy. The thing is, anybody who has done it, they themselves promote. So this is what I say. I say you don't have to promote Zoorkhaneh. Zoorkhaneh will promote itself.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Because when you practice it, you're like, shit, it works. It works so beautifully.
Just like it'll come to you,
Yeah,
it'll promote itself
yeah.
if
Because
you do
like
it.
I get people on the board and they start softening up. Their spine, shoulder blade. Like you got a lot of these spine flows. And after the session, like in the evening, you're still like, I feel so good, man. Instead of being stiff and tight and all that,
Mm.
it's just like, "Khul gaya hai." Say,
Uh-huh.
all of you, it's like something is different. It immediately you feel the difference. If you have actually any connection and been training for a while, you feel it.
Mm.
And so that person is not gonna not. I literally have people who come and say dumbbells are haram. I'm not touching the dumbbells anymore.
Uh-huh.
This is the way.
Say.
But I would say, okay, you know what? Maybe choose a middle ground. Yeah, you can do a little bit of this. Maybe you want the peak of the bicep to pop out a little more. Go do some dumbbell pre-checkers too.
Of course, for the little aesthetics and all, वो थोड़ा
No,
बहुत तो करना पड़ता
I
है.
myself have integrated, for a lot of people, I've integrated them together now.
Mhm.
And instead of like, doing these stretches there on, like different stretches, go take some meals, man. It gets all of it done in a fraction of a second.
Perfect. All right, Moez. So it was great having you and having this discussion.
My pleasure.
And for everyone watching, if you guys are still watching till the end, thank you so much. If you guys like the video, please click on the like button. उससे क्या होता है कि हमारा जो algorithm है YouTube का, that promotes the video more. And if you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel for more physical fitness as well as mental fitness content coming your way. For our international listeners, आपके लिए यहाँ नीचे बार-बार आ रहा होगा कि you can listen and watch this podcast series on Spotify as well. And with that, we will not only be ending this video, but we are ending the season number 1 of the NSJD show. Thank you so much for watching. And for more such videos coming your way in a very short while, again, please subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. So with that, we'll be signing out for season 1 of the NSJD show. This is Noroze, and I'll see you in the next season. Allah Hafiz.